Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sathology Debunking Mythology. Today we are talking about dating of Ramayana. We already covered a little bit earlier, but this is the first time we go a little bit in detail. We have an amazing scholar, a great friend, and also a great researcher, Sri Vedveer Arya. So without delay, let us welcome him. Namaskar and welcome
Namaskar,
Vedveer.
Namaskar, Aditya.
So Vedveer, the presentation is on, but before we start off, I would like to make one comment on Ramayana. Is that Ramayana has the biggest geographical spread amongst all Vedic itihas or historical knowledge. It has all parts of the world mentioned. And Bhagwan Ram asked Sugriv, how did he know it? He said that I was running away from Vali, from my own brother, and that's how I went to all of these parts. And so when Ravan had kidnapped Sita, he was uh, guiding Bhagwan Ram in search for Sita globally. So we have a lot of historical references from Bali, Indonesia, Sumatra, Cambodia, Vietnam, and I think many scholars have commented that's the direction they took to reach South America.
Yes.
And
Hey,
so
that's
that's
true. That time, taking the Southeast Asian route was because Indians were almost up to Korean Peninsula.
correct. And
Mm.
that's the so please shed some light on that too, and then we can get started. You can share your slides right now, and we can get
Yes.
started.
No, regarding the geography, yes, the entire Indian geography is very well narrated by in Ramayana. How Rama left Ayodhya and then reached Prayaga, then Chitrakoot, then the way up to the South India, Panchavati, and many all the places. Even today, we can go and identify those places, at least in India. So the Sugriva, he has a big necklace in. He was knowing the much more better geographical area. So he was directing the all Vanara armies to which direction they should go and where are the places they have to search for the Sita. So Ramayana is, I can say, it's full of geographical references. So there is a lot to research still to identify the exact places where the all Vanara armies went.
Mhm. So coming back to this dating of Ramayana, because it's a it can be cause of faith for some people, but most of the people, when it comes to Bhagwan Ram, the dating part may not be very relevant. But for some people who are looking from those dates point of view, for them it is important because everybody's faith is guided by different aspects, and chronology definitely helps. But in case of Avatar, chronology doesn't help because it he's Sombhavami Yuge Yuge. He comes on his
Ah,
own and
yes.
when he's called for. So,
Yes.
so in according to you, when Bhagwan Ram came, what factors forced him to come down?
No, first of all, before going into the this incarnations and avatara, all Puranas give the complete genealogy from Ikshvaku to Rama and from Rama to Brihadbal, who was the contemporary of Mahabharata era. So even after that also, many Indian kings claimed their descendancy or they were the progeny of the Sri Rama and other. Even Bharata's sons who established the cities like Takshashila and the Pushkalavati in Afghanistan, Pakistan area. So we have a lot of historical information. So the modern historians, they think that Ramayana is a fiction or a mythical narrative has been written by the later scholars. It is not true. Valmiki, who was the contemporary of Sri Rama, he was the real author of the Ramayana. So it's a historical, I can say, a kavya, poetry, because in ancient times, everywhere, even not only in India, even Greek and other, writing in poetry was the more fashion because you can sing and memorize. So that was the most, and you can write in a very concise also. Suppose you're writing in a prose, it will be very lengthy and memorizing, and because in those times the knowledge should be within your mind, it's not in your books. So keeping the entire knowledge in your brain, and as well as the you are memorizing the entire thing. So it was very easy to memorize the verses than the prose paragraphs. So this was the reason the poetry was very, very popular for writing purposes. Since Lokik Sanskrit was evolved after post-Vedic era, and Valmiki was writing the Kavya in Lokik Sanskrit for the first time. This was the reason why Ramayana was called, or even is called, Adi Kavya, because it is the first Kavya written in Lokik Sanskrit. In case Kavya, even Rigveda is itself a Kavya. So Rigveda or Vedas existed much before the Ramayana era. So Adi Kavya, why Ramayana has been referred to, because it was the first Kavya written in Lokik Sanskrit. And one more issue, since it said in India, there was no tradition of writing fiction. In India, always historical characters, even plays or kavyas, any akhyayika, the kind of like telling stories. Every story has a historical, based on a historical particular events and other, except Panchatantra and Hitopadesha, because those were the actually Vishnu Sharma was actually teaching the some dull students, or even to how to, in a very interesting way, how he can teach the politics and as well as the various other subjects. So that's why he used the animal characters to narrate a particular, I think, Siddhantas, theories, and even the moral stories. So he has actually, that Panchatantra Hitopadesha is the only an aberration, those are the fictions. But there was a very an objective behind that. But in a historic, all plays, even you say all natakas written in Sanskrit, every nataka is based on either Mahabharata story, Ramayana story, or Nala, Damayanti. All are our historical ancestors. So even Raghuvansha, it gives complete from starting from Raghu to till Agnivarna. Almost 20-25 generations, the history has been given in Raghuvansha by Kalidasa. So there is no doubt that Rama was an historical person, and the main problem is we somehow lost the chronological connection. How we have lost it is only because I have explained many times how yugas have been evolved. Traditionally, Ramayana is dated in Treta Yuga, but in case if you want to find out any absolute dating is available internally in Ramayana, that is also not possible, because astronomical details can be are actually cyclical. So in over a period you can search for the similar things. But first what we have to do, we have to shortlist a particular timeline where we have to search the Ramayana dating. So what I just share the screen and I'll explain how the.
So one of the things which is said in Shastra is Treta Yuga of the 24th, uh, 24th, 24th Treta Yuga of the 7th Manvantara.
It's not 24th. Actually, what I sorry, we just go by one. I'll just tell you what actually the number of which Treta Yuga Sri Rama was. As per Mahabharata, Adi Parva, it mentioned that Treta Dwaparayo Sandho Ramaha Shastra Britam Varaha. So that Rama and Parashurama both flourished in the last century of Treta Yuga. So Treta Dwaparayo Sandho. When Dwapara Yuga is about to commence and Treta Yuga was about to end, at that period Sri Rama flourished. The similar I think similar timeline has been given in Harivansha Purana also. It also mentioned Dveta, Treta, Dwaparayo Sandho. So this is first we have to find out the traditional methodology for the dating of Sri Rama. And then there is a one book, Yuga Purana of Vriddha Garga. It is a later text. And this also mentioned that Tataha Treta Yugasyante. Yugasyante at the end of Treta Yuga. So what we have to do, we have to first establish the Treta Yuga and then which Treta Yuga, because as per the chronology in the 7th Manvantara, the present Chatur Yuga is the 28th Chatur Yuga.
Correct.
Okay. So
So
why this?
each Manvantara has around 71 point something, 71 Divya Yuga.
But finally, if we round it off around 72, we can see
72, yeah.
72 Chaturyugas. Actually, Aryabhatta, who was more on this one, he says that every yuga has to be equal length because astronomy cannot have a differential cyclical regime. It will have always a similar number of days and years. So that's why he was more astronomer than the traditional person.
And that cycle comes from 1000 divided by 14 because there are 14 Manu.
Yes, yes. But what Aryabhatta took 1008 Chaturyugas. So he made it 72 in every Chaturyuga.
Yeah, that's an assumption he took. Yes.
Yes. So actually, in some Puranas, they many Puranas they talk about the 24th Treta Yuga. What I found it's not correct. Actually, in a later stage, we have developed a concept of 28 Vyasas. Okay. There were every Dwapara Yuga, there was a one Vyasa, or every Chatur Yuga, one Vyasa will be born. So due to this assumption, there is a list of 28 Vyasas. So what they did, they made Valmiki as the 24th Vyasa in that list. Thereafter, they made it Parashara, then Jatu Karna. Thereafter, Vyasa, that Mahabharata Vyasa comes from the 28th. So under these assumptions, they assume that since Valmiki was the 24th Vyasa, therefore it should be the Treta Yuga of 24th Treta Yuga.
And do you have any reference for that, like how they made the Valmiki as a Vyasa?
Yes. There in all this some Puranas, there is a list of, but sometimes the list goes to 32 Vyasas also. So actually, this 28 Vyasa concept has been evolved later because we don't find this in an ancient text at all. Neither Ramayana, Mahabharata, only Puranas. Those have been recompiled and updated during the Shatavahana period, from Shatavahana period to Gupta period. So these are the concepts have been developed. Even that Chiranjeevi concept. There are Ashwathama, Balir, Vyaso, they were the Chiranjeevis. If Vyasa was Chiranjeevi, then all 28 must be living from the first Yuga to 28. So actually what is happening, since we lost the touch with the chronological order, so what we did, we have to develop some concepts to theologically explain that, how they could live in those yugas. So we have to be little bit, because this is the difference between the Sattology and mythology. Because mythology, what happens when somebody becomes a divine personality, adorable for us, we just accept him as a divine person, then we start exaggerating the certain issues. So as per my assessment, this Treta Yuga is the last one, mean 28 Treta Yuga, before the 28 Dwapara Yuga. Because the Surya Siddhanta was written at the end of the 28th Krita Yuga. And Ramayana can only date it after the Surya Siddhanta only. Because Mayasura was living at the end of the Krita Yuga. So we can't date Ramayana before the Surya Siddhanta.
Correct.
Under these things, but first I'll just recap how I have explained the Yuga chronology. So first, this is the sheet anchor for the chronology, because Surya Siddhanta was written at the end of Krita Yuga, and a conjunction of all planets have been taken as an epoch for writing the Surya Siddhanta by Mayasura. And this can be perfectly datable. You can go to any software, any astronomical software. You can find the same position, but you have to take the JPL horizons, that time correction. You will find this conjunction took place in Aries on 22nd February 6778 BC. So based on that, I have established and I have corroborated that the Krita Yuga ended in 6777 BC. So the Treta Yuga commenced on 6777 BC. But we have to, for another thing, we have to understand how yugas have been evolved. So in the beginning of the Vedic era, as well as the post-Vedic period, a yuga had only a length of 5 years, and a Chaturyuga had only the length of 20 years. Thereafter, when we switched over from 5-year cycle to 12-year cycle, that Jovian cycle, then the yuga length has been increased from 5 years to 2200 years. So we have to understand the evolution of this one. So this is the reason all the Vedic and post-Vedic texts, Brahmanas, Aranyaka, they refer to only 5-year yuga or 20-year Chatur Yuga only. Post-Surya Siddhanta text, a length of yuga has been increased from 5 years to 1200 years. This was the reason why Treta Yuga had only 1200 years, that was 677 BCE to 5577 BCE. Thereafter, post-Ramayana era, the Chatur Yuga length has been increased from 4800 to 12,000 years. This and as well as the differential duration, that Krita Yuga must have the four yuga length, then the Treta Yuga must have around 3600, then the Dwapar Yuga must have a 2400 years, and naturally the Kali Yuga must have only 1200. Later, around Mahabharata or post Mahabharata, this 12,000 has been multiplied by 360. This is the reason today we are following lakhs of years, almost 4,32,000 years is the one yuga. Kali Yuga will have the length of 4,32,000 years. But this is how the yuga chronology has been evolved. But actually, we have to, when we work out the chronology of historical event, we have to assume, or we have to ensure that before Surya Siddhanta, yuga length was only 5 years. So we have to assume the yugas as well as the elapsed yugas to be calculated as per the length of the yuga prevalent during that period.
So
This is how
we still have then 4,027 4,27,000 years left for Kali Yuga then.
That's why we are presently 5,200 around presently.
Yeah.
So it will continue another 4,27,000 years.
Yeah. So the Kalki Avatar is going to come after 4,27,000 years.
No, but actually we must understand this, why the Indian astronomers were using this, because the year length is not just 365 days, 365 point some fractions. So adjusting that fraction into an integer, because in a calendar you can adjust either 1 day or you can delete 1 day. You can't just adjust few hours or seconds or minutes. So this is the reason the longer yugas have given a more accuracy for calculating the years and the days in a calendar. So actually calendrical compulsions force the astronomers to increase the length of yugas. But due to these problems, are actually this, though astronomy improved, but we landed in a problem in a chronological history. So based on that, I have arrived the chronology from Vedic era to post-Vedic era. The Vedas were compiled around this 11,500 to 10,000 BC. Then we have a Ramayana era, because Treta Yuga was 6,777 BC to 5577 BC. So Ramayana took place in the last century of Treta Yuga. That's why we must have this is the band we have to take for searching the Ramayana date. Then Mahabharata War, I have already explained in my last talk that Mahabharata War took place in 3162 BC. Thereafter, Kali Yuga is continuing. So, while within this 100 years, how we can fix a date of birth of Rama and the year in which Sri Rama killed Ravana. So for going, we have to explore the internal astronomical evidence to find out the exact. But before going to understand the astronomical evidence, we have to pinpoint the calendar followed during the Ramayana era. So that calendar we have to infer based on the references given in Ramayana. So what I found it, the Purnimanta calendar was followed. Though the calendar was same, Magha Shukladi, the Vedic calendar of 5-year Yuga calendar, because from Vedika era to Ramayana era, Indians followed only the 5-year Yuga calendar, which was under the Paitamaha Siddhanta. But since Krita Yuga when ended, that time the Indians were following the Purnimanta calendar. So in the North India, the calendar remained Purnimanta, means full moon to full moon was the month. The calendar used to follow a month from full moon to full moon. And in the South India, they followed the Amanta calendar from new moon to new moon. So the tradition even today also, the North India follows the Purnimanta calendar, South India is following the Amanta calendar. So this has the history from 6777 BC onwards, almost 8800 years history of how North India was following, how South India was following. Actually, Southern India was following the more Brahma Siddhanta. They followed the Shukla from full new moon to new moon, where North was following more traditional Vedic calendar. So the Vedic calendar was Purnimanta at the time when Treta Yuga commenced. Same calendar remained in vogue in North India. So this we have to keep in mind, that the Purnimanta calendar and the Vedic Yuga calendar, that 5-year Yuga calendar. So we can say that during the Ramayana era, Magha Krishnadi calendar, not Magha Shukla Pratipada, the month commenced Magha Krishna Pratipada onwards. So this is the calendar. Now, how we can pinpoint a particular date for fixing the Sri Rama's birth or Sri Rama's invasion on Sri Lanka? So there is a reference in the Ramayana while proceeding towards Lanka. Lakshmana was explaining to Rama that there is a comet is visible in Mula Nakshatra. So Mula Nakshatra was the birth nakshatra of Ravana. So now Rakshasa will be easily defeated, because this was the bad omen for the person who born in Mula Nakshatra. So Ravana was born in Mula Nakshatra. Since in his birth nakshatra a comet is sitting there, so it will definitely kill the Ravana. This was the kind of an astrological assumption, and this has been mentioned in the Ramayana. Nairitam nairitanam cha nakshatram abhipidhyate moolam moolavata sprishtam dhumyate dhumaketuna. And one more thing we have to see, nakshatram graha piditam. So what Lakshmana is explaining, he's saying that a particular one planet was in the Mula Nakshatra. At the same time, comet was also there in Mula Nakshatra. So this, if we see the graha, the planet, that was the Venus. Venus was in Mula constellation around 22nd August to 3rd September. What I did, I worked out this Mula Nakshatra. It was actually Halley's Comet. Halley's Comet entered in Mula Nakshatra on 23rd August 5635 BC. And the apparent magnitude was around 2.14, so it was visible to the naked eyes. So we can say almost last week of the August in 5635 BC. And it remained in Mula Nakshatra up to in the February. So later this nakshatra faded away. So this was the period when Lakshmana was directing, or even Sri Rama asked the Vanara Sena to march towards Sri Lanka. So 5635 was the 14th year of Sri Rama's Vanavasa. So based on that, we can fix the Sri Rama's birth year. So this is, you can simulate, go to the Stellarium software and select the 5635, and then you can search for the Halley's Comet, and this was the Mula Nakshatra. So exactly this Mula Nakshatra touched the Moolam, means almost the nakshatra. It touched the tail of the nakshatra touched the Mula Nakshatra. So this has been almost very interestingly explained by Lakshmana. And if you can see Venus, Venus was also there. So this nakshatram was Graha Piditam, means it was generally Graha Pidita means in case a planet is crossing over that particular nakshatra will be mentioned as the Graha Pidita. So the date last week of August and the first and second week of September in 5635 BCE, this perfectly explained what has been mentioned in Ramayana. Based on this, we can fix the 14th year of Sri Rama's Vanavasa and the year in which Sri Rama killed Ravana. Now, based on this, we have to find out the Sri Rama's birth date, because Sri Rama was almost 25 years old when he left for the Vanavasa, and Vanavasa means was for almost 14 years. So he was almost 39 and a half years when he killed the Ravana. So if we back calculate 5635 at 14 years and at 25 years, so then Sri Rama was born on 3rd February 5674 BCE, Chaitra Shukla Navami in Punarvasu Nakshatra. This is the 3rd February 5674 BCE. Now, when we are calculating this date, we have to follow a calendar also. So what we have to do, because in Ramayana era, the astronomers, Indian astronomers used to follow the Vedic calendar of 5 years. So that Samvatsara calendar, thereafter the Parivatsara, then Idavatsara. So this calendar began around 5677 BC. Then 5674 BC was the Idavatsara. So first Samvatsara was 6th December 5677 BCE to 24th November 5674 BC. This was the first year of the calendar. Thereafter, second year was the Parivatsara from 25 November to 5676 BCE and 13th November 5675 BCE. Now, this is the third year. So, Sri Rama was born in the third year of the Yuga calendar. That was the Idavatsara. What we have to do, the Magha, the month Magha was from 14th November to 13th December. Thereafter, Falguna month was 13th December to 11th January. Now Chaitra. So we have to assume these are the Purnimanta months. So from 12th January to 9th February 5674 BC. So this is how Sri Rama was born in Chaitra Shukla Navami in Punarvasu Nakshatra. The date was 3rd February 5674 BC. Now, I have already explained the visibility of a comet in Mula Nakshatra as well as a planet at the same time in Mula Nakshatra. Then the fixing of the date of birth of Rama. Now, when was New Year was celebrated during the Ramayana era? So there is a reference. It clearly explains that the New Year was in the beginning of Hemanta season. Hemanta, it is before the, just after the Sharad Ritu. So while describing the Hemanta Ritu to Sri Rama, what Lakshmana was saying, Ayam Sakalaha Sampraptaha. Then what he is doing? Nava Agrayana Puja Bhi. Then Krita Agrayanakaha. This has been mentioned in Aranyakanda. So, in the beginning of Hemanta Ritu, because the calendar of Vedic, from Rigvedic era onwards, we are following the Vedic calendar of 5-year Yuga. So that in Rigvedic era, it was almost in the beginning of the Sharad Ritu. That has now shifted to in the beginning of Hemanta season, because every 2100 years, a lunar calendar accumulate one extra month. This is the reason why the Sharad Ritu calendar of Vedic era has been shifted to Hemanta Ritu calendar during the Ramayana era. So this shloka clearly explains that the new year, Agrayana, was celebrated in the beginning of the Hemanta season. So this is how the Sharadadi calendar has become Hemantadi calendar during the Ramayana era. So what we have to do, I just made a chart of the how seasons were there in Rigvedic era. Magha, Phalguna, these both months were in the Sharad Ritu. But the Vedic era was post Vedic era 10,200 to 8,200 BC. This was the post Vedic era. But that time they were following the Amanta calendar. Since during the Ramayana era, it was the Purnimanta calendar. So the Sharad Ritu was actually Marga, Shirsha and Pushya. Then Hemanta Ritu was Magha, Phalguna. Since Vedic, the lunisolar calendar began from the beginning of the Magha month. So this is the reason the New Year used to begin in the beginning of the Hemanta season. So during the Mahabharata era, Kartika, Marga, Shirsha were the months of Sharad Ritu. Then Pushya, Magha were Hemanta season. So this is how we can have this chart. So we can easily follow the Vedic Yuga calendar. So we have to understand that from the beginning of Rigvedic era and post-Vedic era till the Mahabharata, we were following the 5-year Yuga calendar, that is the Magha Shukladi in a Amanta scheme of calendar and the Magha Krishnadi in the scheme of a Purnimanta calendar. During the Ramayana era, we were following the Purnimanta scheme of calendar. Therefore, we have to start the month from the Magha Krishna Pratipada, just after full moon of Magha month. Now, when we reconcile the seasons referred in the Ramayana, that also we can do it. The Sita was abducted by Ravana in the beginning of Hemanta season, just a year, New Year has begun. And Sita requested Ravana that give me one time for one samvatsara. Satu samvatsaram kalam mamayachata bhamini. This is Ravana was actually his statement that Sita requested, give me a 1 year so that she will decide what to do. So the abduction of Sita took place in the beginning of Hemanta season. Then Rama eliminated Vali by the end of Phalguna month, because after the Hemanta means it may begin Magha, then Magha, the Pushya, and then we will Pushya, then we have a Phalguna month, just 1.5 month after the abduction. The Sri Rama killed the Vali. Then Sugriva was coronated after, because the coronation of Sugriva in Kishkinda, it took place in the month of Chaitra. Thereafter, Sugriva, he sent Vanara groups in all the direction for searching Sita in the beginning of the Vaishakha month. So by that time, Sugriva ordered the Vanara armies to go all direction for searching the Sita. So that was the Chaitra, actually Vasanta Ritu, spring season. The same has been stated. Tesham maso vyatikranto rasamay tatah pushpadi bhaga latashata samavritan vasantikan. So the word vasantikan clearly indicates that during the, and same thing, Hanuman also saw the Vasanta season in Sri Lanka. When Hanuman landed in Sri Lanka, he saw the Vasanta season. So Pushpitagran Vasantado Dadarsha Vividhan Druman. So this is the and finally Sri Rama killed Ravana at the end of Sharad season. So that just before beginning of the Hemanta season, so that 1 year time, within 1 year from the abduction of Sita to till killing of Ravana, within 1 year all these events took place. So we can reconcile the seasons as well as the details I have mentioned about the Agrayana, the New Year ritual was in the beginning of Hemanta Ritu. And one more reference in the Uttara Ramayana, that when Sri Rama, after killing of Ravana, the Vibhishana arranged the Pushpaka Vimana, and by Pushpaka Vimana, Sri Rama reached Ayodhya, and Sri Rama was coronated as the king of Ayodhya. Thereafter, it is mentioned that Sita and Rama both were in a, because they were 14 years were in a Vanavasa. So they were almost spent a month, the month of Shishira. So it also explains that before Shishira Ritu and during the Hemanta season itself, Sri Rama reached Ayodhya and became the king of Ayodhya. So this is how we can reconcile the how seasonal calendar was in vogue during the Ramayana era. And before going to this, we have to encounter certain inconsistencies because uh, unfortunately, we cannot say unfortunately, actually what was the tradition in India, the Itihasa and Purana text were updated. So if go to Yuddha Kanda, at least 2 or 3 references are there. Pura Valmikina Kritam. Pura in ancient time, Valmikina by Valmiki. Kritam written by this Kavya was written. So why Valmiki himself will say that Pura Valmikina Kritam? So certainly the today available Ramayana was updated during the Shatavahana period or almost 1000 BC or 2000 BC to 1000 BC has been updated. So this is the reason why there are certain inconsistencies. Like in the first in Balakanda, it is mentioned that Tatashta Dvadashe Mase Chaitre Navamike Tatho. So what he is referring to Chaitra as the 12th month. Chaitra 12th month means the person who is writing this shloka, he was following the Vaishakhadi calendar, the Baisakhi calendar. When the vernal equinox used to occur in Vaishakha, so this was around 2000 BC. To 2000 to 1000 BC around, we Indians used to follow the Vaishakhadi calendar. Even Mithila historians followed this Vaishakhadi calendar. This is the reason this shloka was either edited by those guys because they could not understand how the difference, because they thought the lunisolar calendar seasons will be always constant, but that is not. So since the historians, the poor updaters, they were not well versed in the astronomy, so they thought that the Chaitra Masa is actually 12th month of the year. So that's why they just mentioned Tataha Dvadashe Mase Chaitre Navami Ke Titho. Even certain statements, if you see the Chaitra Shrimana, these are inconsistencies. So there is an internal inconsistency is there. This is the, but what we have to do, we have to first, that's why I'm saying, we have to first fix the timeline of the Treta Yuga, because this Yuga chronology very important to ensure the accuracy in fixing the Ramayana era. So naturally, these are either edited or interpolated shlokas. But I'm actually giving an advice that this should not be treated as that Ramayana is not reliable. That's not true, because there are numerous references which give the total, even like from Aranya Kanda or even Ayodhya Kanda to the Kishkindha and Yuddha Kanda. Many references, they are easily you can reconcile. Only few shlokas, the person who was updating, he was not well versed the astronomy, and he could not assume, or I can say that the precession, and since he may not have the knowledge of the precession and the accumulation of one extra lunar month after every 2000 years was not known to the updater. So he made certain mistakes. So we have to segregate. It's a challenging job, but yes, we have to deal with these problems. And this is the same problem why the almost many people who were researching on Ramayana, they just search for the exaltation of all planets so that you can find a date. Wherever you find the exaltation of all planets, you fix the Ramayana date, but that's not correct. Actually, the exaltation of planets. If you see, this is the tradition, the exaltation. The Mercury has been given exalted in the 15th degree of Virgo, where the sun is in Aries. It's impossible because Mercury can have an elongation of hardly some 25, 26 or 28 degrees only maximum. It means it cannot be away from more than one Rashi at any time. So how can be Sun in Aries and Mercury can be in Virgo? It is impossible. So there is some error in this table. How this? Because traditionally this concept has been evolved. So during Ramayana time, what kind of an exaltation scheme was followed? Nobody knows. So reconciling these exaltation based on the today's whatever the tradition is available, the similar scheme of exaltation ever existed during the Ramayana era, it's difficult to say. So as per my assessment, this shloka, which claims that all were in all planets were on exaltation, was just a theological argument, because a person who has incarnated can't be born in a normal conditions. There must be some very rarest planetary positions. So since these exaltations have been assumed as the rarest, so somebody has updated this shloka, and he mentioned that all planets are on exaltation. So it's only a theological expectation, a theological argument, but it's not the shloka written by Valmiki as per my thing. So instead of searching for the exaltation of all planets, what we have to do, we have to first fix the timeline of the Treta Yuga and search for the last century of the Treta Yuga. In that last century, then we have to corroborate the astronomical evidence. That is the only methodology where we can fix the dating of Ramayana. Then in a Ramayana, there is a reference of Indradvaja festival. So it is well known in Mahabharata. The king Uparichara, he was the Kuru king Uparichara Vasu. He was the person who actually started celebrating this Indradvaja festival. Even Atharva Veda also refers that this Indradvaja festival. So from Rigvedic era onwards, Indradvaja festival was celebrated in India. But what is this festival? Even if you look at the Shilapadikaram, that mentioned that one Chola king, very ancient Chola king, Sembian, he began celebrating this festival. Even Manimekhalai in Tamilian epic Manimekhalai, it mentions that Agastya asked Sembian to start Indra festival. So it's a festival. We can say that Indradvaja festival is the oldest festival in India. Then even during the Sangam era, it was celebrated from 1 month, from Chaitra Purnima to Vaishakha Purnima. This was the tradition during the Tamil Sangam era of Tamil Nadu. Then the same Indradvaja festival was actually the last 15 days of Varsha Ritu and the first 15 days of Sharad Ritu. This is the when Rigvedic era, during the 14,000 to 12,000 BCE, the Rigvedic people used to follow the Sharadadi calendar. This is in Rigveda numerous times Jivema Sharadaha Shatam, because the calendar was Sharadadi, means a calendar began from the autumnal equinox. So that time, actually, it was the end of Varsha Ritu and beginning of the Sharad Ritu. This was the time when Indradvaja festival was celebrated. So even Vishnu Purana also indicates that the celebration of Indra festival was after rains in the Sharad season. So this even literary evidence also indicates that the Indradvaja festival was celebrated almost in the beginning of the end of the Varsha Ritu and the beginning of the Sharad Ritu. So what happened during the 2000 to 1000 BCE, when Vaishakhadi calendar came into practice, a person who was updating the Ramayana, he refers that Indradvaja festival was celebrated in Ashwayuja Purnima, because during 2000 to 1000 BCE, Sharad Ritu used to commence, or the Varshas used to end in the Ashwayuja Masa, the month of Ashwayuja. So because Ashwayuja was the last month of Varsha Ritu, So this is the reason why Ramayana refers that Indradvaja festival was celebrated in Ashwayuja. During the Varahamihira's time, because Varahamihira, he was in the almost 1st century BC, what he mentions that Indradvaja festival was celebrated in the Bhadrapada month instead of Ashwayuja. Ashwayuja was at least 2000 years before him. So now, due to accumulation of one more lunar month, now the Bhadrapada became the last month of Varsha Ritu during his lifetime. That's why what Varahamihira said, Indra festival is being celebrated in Bhadrapada. So this is the history of how Indradvaja festival was celebrated in India from Vedic era to even during the Varahamihira's time. So the reference to Ashwayuja Purnima for celebrating the Indradvaja festival in Ramayana, actually it's an interpolated shloka during the period of 2000 to 1000 BC. It appears that there may be an original shloka. Someone who was not well versed, either he edited or he just, it appears that he had edited and he mentioned the Ashwayuja. It's difficult. Once we are dating or even studying Ramayana, we have to deal with some interpolated shlokas. But we can only validate this based on the sheet anchors, and when we establish the chronology, then only we can easily segregate those interpolated shlokas. And one more, the Vivaha Panchami, if we, in Mithila region and Nepal, the Vivaha Panchami is celebrated on Marga Shirsha Shukla Panchami. When the Vivaha of Rama and Sita took place. So actually, if you read the Ramayana, it is mentioned that Adya Mahabahu Tritiye Divaseva, after 3rd day, on 4th or 5th of the month, Uttare Phalguni, means in the Uttar Phalguni Nakshatra, it is a very good auspicious, or it's an auspicious occasion. So the Vivaha of Rama and Sita must be, means they were married in Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra. So this, not only the tradition, even that Margashirsha Shukla Panchami, and as well as the Ramayana gives an evidence that Rama and Sita both were married in Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra. This is the reason, if even today, the best nakshatra, Uttara Phalguni is one of the best nakshatra for the marriages. But generally, the astrologers and they don't prescribe this nakshatra because Sita has to face so many problems in her life. So Uttara Phalguni is one of the best nakshatras for marriages, but generally the astrologers avoid this nakshatra for the marriage ceremony. So this, now the problem is, if you go to the Margashirsha Shukla Panchami, it's not possible to have a Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra. It can only be Shravana Nakshatra. So why this problem? As I told you, during the Ramayana era, we were following the Purnimanta calendar, and that time, even till Ramayana era or post Ramayana era, this Shukla Paksha, Krishna Paksha, these names came very late. We were using Prathama Paksha or Dvitiya Paksha or Purva Paksha, Apara Paksha. So first half or second half. So that time, since later period when we started following the Amanta calendar, we thought that the first half in a Purnimanta calendar, actually it's a Krishna Paksha, but the first half in the Amanta calendar is the Shukla Paksha. Due to this problem, this Margashirsha Shukla Panchami became as a tithi for celebrating the Vivaha Panchami. But today, if Margashirsha Shukla Panchami can only possible in Shravana Nakshatra, even during the Ramayana era, also somewhere near to Shravana Nakshatra only. So that time, what was the Margashirsha Krishna Panchami, not the Shukla Panchami. So that's why the Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra was only possible in Margashirsha Krishna Panchami. So during the, that's why what we have to do, we have to assume that during the Ramayana era, it was the Purnimanta calendar. So this is how the Vivaha Panchami, the marriage ceremony, of Rama Sita took place in on Marga Shirsha Krishna Panchami and Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra. So this is how, and this also establishes that during the Ramayana era, Purnimanta calendar was followed, not Amanta calendar. So this is after this. Then what happened after Vivaha? Dasharatha was planning to coronate Sri Rama. So then that was the Pausha Purnima, because always he is referring to the Pushya Yoga and Pushya as the very auspicious nakshatra. This is why, because the actually the beginning of the Magha month, the full moon used to occur in a Pushya nakshatra. So this was the reason why the Pushya is numerous references in Ramayana refers to the Pushya Nakshatra or Pausha Purnima as the most auspicious, because on that day actually this New Year used to come, an Agrayana ritual as well as the New Year of the 5-year Yuga calendar was celebrated on in a Pushya Nakshatra and Pausha Purnima during the Ramayana era. Now, after this, the coronation, why Dasharatha decided suddenly that now I have to hand over the kingdom to Rama? Because he saw certain bad omens explained by his court astrologers. So what they say, there was a conjunction of Sun, Mars and Rahu. There is a shloka that avashtabdam cha me Rama nakshatram darunair grahe avedayanti devagyaha suryangaraka rahubhi. So this Angaraka means Mars, and Sun, Mars and Rahu. Rahu is a shadow planet. What we have to understand, the first astrological explanation to this. It is very obvious in the Indian astrology. Rahu is well known to destroy the results of the planets it is sitting with. Why? Because in case the conjunction of Sun and Mars is giving the positive results, then if Rahu is there, then it will destroy the positive results. In case the conjunction of Sun and Mars is giving the negative results, and Rahu is there, then Rahu will destroy the negative results. So if Rahu is with the negative conjunction of the Sun and Mars, then it is very good. But if Sun and Mars are in a positive conjunction and Rahu is there, then it will be a problem, because it will destroy the positive results. So what was the during that period? Actually, the conjunction of Sun and Mars was a positive. How to establish whether they were in a positive conjunction or a negative conjunction? This in a Rashi, there is a Purva Pada, and there are three different, 3 or 4 padas are there in a particular nakshatra as well as in a Rashi also. In the particular nakshatra, it's at 13.2 degrees. So in the first pada, means it is the higher 1/4 of the nakshatra and the lower portion of the nakshatra. In case Sun is in higher pada and Mars is in a lower, then Mars will reign the conjunction. So what the Mars will certainly give the negative results. In case Sun is in lower pada and Mars is in higher pada, then the Sun will give the positive results. So the conjunction was also, since the astrologers of Ramayana era, they have expressed their concern, then it's a positive conjunction, but Rahu is sitting with the Sun, so it will destroy those positive results. So at that time, generally, in case in the birth nakshatra of the king, if there is a conjunction of Sun and Mars, and if the Sun is in a positive conjunction and if it is sitting with the Rahu, then it will destroy the results. So generally, there was a prediction that a king may die during such situation. So same problem was there during so the Dasharatha was warned by the court astrologer. So certainly his life is limited. Now you have to coronate Sri Rama. This is the reason why Dasharatha hurriedly wanted that, okay, let me coronate the Sri Rama. So this position, how to find out what is the Janma Nakshatra of Dasharatha? So there are some shlokas which are not actually omitted by the critical edition. But if you see these two shlokas given in the some old manuscript, clearly indicate that Vishakha was the Dasharatha's Janma Nakshatra. And there is one more shloka in Ramayana, Ikshvakunam Mahatmanam. So Vishakha was the nakshatra of the Ikshvaku dynasty. Why? Because Dasharatha was born in the Vishakha nakshatra. So if we find out the particular nakshatra and as well as the position of Mars and Sun, this is the timeline, because what we have to do, we have to go back. 5635 was the year, was the 14th year. So we have to go to the exactly just the beginning of the first year of the Vanavasa. So that was the 5649 BC. In that one, somewhere in the 21st September, in the Vishakha Nakshatra, Mars was in the Prathama Pada, where the Sun was in the 4th Pada, and Rahu was sitting with the Sun. So Sun and Mars were in a positive conjunction, and Rahu will destroy the positive results. So it will certainly lead to a death of the king. This has been predicted by the court astrologers. Based on this prediction, Dasharatha, actually Dasharatha was telling this situation to Sri Rama, that already court astrologers have warned me that my life is very limited because my birth nakshatra has been in my birth nakshatra, there is a conjunction of Sun and Mars, and Rahu is also sitting there. So certainly my life is very limited. So I want to coronate you. This was the message given to Rama by Dasharatha. So finally, the 26th November, this was the Pushya Nakshatra, Pausha Purnima. On that day, the Rama's coronation was planned, and all the events are well known why Sri Rama has to leave for Vanavasa. So we can even fix the exact date on which Sri Rama left Ayodhya for Vanavasa. So this is the way we can explain the chronology one by one. So, but it is very, very important to establish the Janma Nakshatra of Sri Rama. Janma Nakshatra of Dasharatha. So as per my studies, because there are some shlokas have been omitted in the critical edition. So we have to first find out the shlokas in the Ramayana. Actually, the methodology to find out what are the original shlokas, it's very, very difficult. What they did, all manuscripts, if all manuscripts are having the same shlokas, then they have accepted them as the authentic. If some shlokas are not appearing in all manuscripts, then they have omitted them as the interpolated, but that is not the correct methodology. What we have to do, we have to find out the oldest manuscript, then the latest manuscript. Then you have to critically study which manuscript is the more authentic. Naturally, the oldest manuscript, and moreover, if the South Indian manuscript or in a North Indian or any other different geographical areas, whatever the manuscripts have been formed, we have to critically study, and all manuscripts have to be maintained as it is, because there is a history to that particular manuscript in a particular area. So then only we can do some justice to the Ramayana, and in understanding that what actually is interpolated, what are the original. So that study has to be done instead of just merging the all manuscript into one edition and bringing out a critical edition will not solve the problem, because we have not established the chronology. Once we establish the chronology, then we can easily evaluate what are the original shlokas, what are just an additions or interpolations due to misunderstanding of the chronology, and as or a kind of a theological expectations. Like in the Balakanda, it has been mentioned that Sri Rama or Vishnu's incarnation. These are all shlokas that have been added during the period of Shatavahanas and Guptas. So this is how we have to we have fixed the timeline from the Ramayana's birth to the day Sri Rama left for Vanavasa. This was the date on 26th November. This was the Posha Purnima. And just before this, just 2 months before, the court astrologers warned the Dasharatha by stating that there is a conjunction of Sun and Mars, and Sun is in a positive conjunction but sitting with the Rahu. So Rahu will destroy the positive results, and the king who was born in this nakshatra may not survive. So based on that, Dasharatha decided to coronate Rama, but the unfortunate certain events led Sri Rama to decide to go for a Vanavasa. So Aditya ji, so this is what I have explained from that one. And even certain other areas we will cover for the next time.
Yes.
Yes,
So
Aditya.
I think one of the things which strike me, and maybe we cover in the next part, is the timelines of, putting Ramayana, Mahabharat, and the post Mahabharata timeline together in one slide. Just one or two slides we should show,
Yes.
so that the
Yes.
viewers get a glimpse on your research on these
Yes.
topics.
Yes.
And
But Yuga chronology is very, very important, because without Yugas, it's impossible to reconcile the entire chronology, genealogy, because it's not just astronomical references. We have to establish the genealogical continuity as well as the chronological continuity. And also we have to corroborate the astronomical references, and also the other references, like the Sri Lanka was not even an island if you go back to 6000 BC and others.
Mhm.
So that we will discuss in the next time. Where was the Lanka located also, because it's a
I
very
think that will, where is Ravana's Lanka? I think that will be a great topic.
yes, yes.
But so what we need to do is, for the viewers, I loved the patience that you had, and you went through this presentation. And do watch it on YouTube, and we'll come up with more subsequent shows with Virarya ji, his own research. That is his viewpoint, because the idea is that you make a decision, not, we don't decide for you. But scholars like Virarya ji, and these are doing wonderful service to our society, because very few people have the patience to go through all these things. We are all looking for the instant foods nowadays, everything instant and less words. So I think these videos will play an important role for you to build your faith in Bhagwan Ram. That's the ultimate objective. So with that, we'll end this show, and also we'll look for more recordings and more live shows like this one. And thank you. And do go to the YouTube, forward it to your friends. This video will be out shortly, and do comment so that we can improve. Namaskar. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar.